It is always an absolute pleasure to have one of the greatest NBA players in the history of this beautiful game, Rick Barry. Also a Warriors legend. Also played on a team that strikes a lot of similarities to this current iteration. That's 12 deep. I'm going to pick Rick's brain because whose brain is better to pick? Who has a better mind for basketball and so much more? Rick Barry, this is the Golden Days. Here we go.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. It was a pretty crazy night.
Woo! Let's go!
In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. 'Cause I get what I want and I like what I see. If you got
legend himself. Oh, I got Hall of Famer Rick Barry, one of the greatest players in the history of the game. Bruce Jenkins just wrote in the San Francisco Chronicle that at all times, when you are referenced, sir, you should be considered top 15. It was a very glowing compliment to you, and I agree wholeheartedly, sir. Rick Barry, you can follow him on all social media platforms at Rick24Barry. Rick, great to see you, sir. How the hell are you doing? And your immediate reaction to the Warriors having the biggest victory on opening night in franchise history. Good to see you.
That was pretty impressive what they did last night. They just, I mean, come on. The most anybody played was 20-something minutes. And they had multiple guys. Almost all 5 starters were in double figures. It was pretty impressive. They did all that without, that the pod man he didn't even score a point. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. I mean, I don't know if he'll ever do that again, to be honest with
Rick, I'm really glad you brought that up. And sorry if I seem distracted. I forgot to add your graphic, and I'm almost there on that. But I'm glad you brought up Podziemski, because you're right. He had a donut in scoring, didn't make a single field goal, didn't have a single trip to the free throw line. But Rick, and I don't know what your feelings are on net rating. I don't know if you value that stat. I know it's somewhat subjective, but he led the team, I believe, with a plus 34, despite scoring 0 points. No one's talked about that yet, which I think is fascinating. What's your reaction to that? Like he led the team last year in net rating, a plus 34 with 0 points.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I'm not, as you know, I'm not totally 100% sold on analytics and all that other statistical bullshit that they throw out there. As a coach, sometimes you got to go with your gut feeling, and I'm sure that Steve does that. I think most coaches do that, and you get a feel for what's happening. You know your players. You know your players better than other people who are just looking at stats know them, okay? And so, but you have to admit that that's a pretty impressive thing to score no points and whatever the ratings are, whatever they're doing. Obviously, when he's on the court, good things are happening with the team. That's the indication, okay? When he's on the court, good things are happening, and it's great if you can contribute to a team with scoring no points and have a plus rating when you're on the court. That's a good thing, all right? So I'll go that far with it. So, and I don't think it'll ever happen again. He'll rate that high and have 0. I mean, I don't think he'll ever have a 0 again, to be honest with you. It's just hard for me to believe that he would get 0 because, I mean, he attacks the basket. He's an active player. He can shoot the ball. So that was an aberration, but just a nice way to start the season, especially starting on the road. It's always nice to get anything that you do in a competitive nature. If you're in a regular start the season, whether you're in a series, to win that first game is always an important thing. It's just good for your psyche. So I was happy for that. It was nice to see some of those younger players who I really don't know very much about. I'll certainly admit that. A lot of young guys and people I've never heard. I'll be watching them, obviously, during the course of the season and see how things unfold. And even that, well, even you want to throw something else out there. Steph didn't have a particularly great game shooting the basketball. I mean, there's just so many positive things. But the one thing I did like to see was that Wiggins had a nice game. I think that's a key element I mean, a really key element for the team.
Well,
After
Rick,
the
I'm glad you brought that up because, first of all, I had to block someone in the chat for bringing nonsense into here. And look, I don't mind addressing every topic imaginable, but at the same time, don't be an ignorant ass. There are limits and boundaries. Sorry about my dog as well. He's going crazy right now. Rick, Stephen Curry was 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. I never would have imagined Stephen Curry on an off night shooting. I know he picked it up after a bad first quarter for the whole team. I mean, if you don't mind, before I forget with my ADHD brain here, what was your reaction to the team's slow start? Was that just nerves? Because I feel like the Warriors in the first quarter versus the Warriors the rest of the game, it was like 2 different teams. Did you notice that as well?
Well, here's the thing: is that you always have anxiety a little bit when you're getting ready to start a season. I mean, and especially for some of the younger guys that are there. This is not a lineup that's played together an exceptional number of times that they felt totally comfortable. Everybody's getting used to one another right now. And so all of those factors taking into consideration on the road as well, there's no reason, I mean, didn't surprise me that they weren't going to play at their best. I mean, it's kind of like even during a playoff series, a team gets off for 3 days or in between series, right? One team wins in 4 games, the other goes 7. The other guys are sitting around forever. They go out in that first game and they don't particularly play all that well at the start of the first quarter, the majority of the time. And so that it was nice to see that they changed that they started to get the comfort zone. They started to feel good about one another. They started to play Warriors brand basketball, which I just really believe that which Warriors brand basketball is basketball at its fundamental best. Because when they're playing that brand of basketball, even when they had KD with them and the amazing things, the only time they got in trouble is when sometimes they relied too much on KD, who's such an amazing player. And you have a tendency sometimes, just give him the ball and let him do it instead of the pass, cut, move, get the easy baskets, make the other team make multiple decisions defensively. That's what you want to try to do as a team. And again, I always remember my dad talking to me, son, the more decisions you force the defense to make, the more the likelihood they'll make mistakes. And if you're an intelligent player and understand how to play the game, you will capitalize on those mistakes and you will get baskets off of things that you never even imagined because the plays generally don't work from start to finish the way they're designed.
Very well said. A lot of people aren't aware of this, Rick, but your father had a tremendous impact. It was profound on who you are and your playing career because he was an athlete too, correct?
He was a semi-pro player and coach, yes, and he also was a great fast softball pitcher and fast pitch softball. Yeah.
This was so men used to play fast pitch softball back in the day?
Oh, God, back in way back in those days. Yeah, they played fast pitch softball. My father was good. And I always remember when fast pitch stuff, it was, what was it? Eddie, what's his name? The King in His Court, it was called. And I forget, I'm drawing a blank on his last name right now. But I remember seeing him perform when I was in college. We came out, we played Santa Clara. And at halftime, they had him, Eddie Feiner, that's what his name, Eddie Feiner. And I just remember. So he had the person was there with the glove. He's picking it up a little higher. So he picked the left hand up there. It's a right-handed person with the glove on the left hand. And he's a little higher. Okay, right there. And he threw a ball, fast pitched it. It went a few feet off the ground and rose right up and right into that glove without that person ever moving. I mean, that's just still, I'm impressed by that still in my mind. Come on, I'm freaking 80 years old. And I can remember that when I was 19 or 20 and 19 years old, 20 years old.
It is one of the great things about baseball and softball is the movement on those pitches. I don't know if you call it underhand throw a pitch as well, but it's the movement on the ball is incredible. It's one of it's wizardry, borderline. It's fascinating. The science and the physics that goes behind that is wild. And bless your father for producing you and which led to your progeny. You have a lot of kids and grandkids and bravo and all that.
My brother Dennis, God rest his soul, is no longer with us. He was a big help because it's rare that a brother who's 4 years older would even let you hang around with him or do anything. But my brother was really great and very helpful to me and very supportive of me. I'm sad that he's no longer around to be able to celebrate life with him. But it's great when you have that kind of a support system.
Absolutely, yeah. There's no doubt about that. I want to play this soundbite going back to Stephen Curry. I apologize for the lighting on my screen here for the YouTube viewers. I'll fix that in a second. Stephen Curry had an interesting comment. This is courtesy of Anthony Slater who does an excellent job as one of the beat reporters covering the team. Sam Gordon of the SF Chronicle, another one I'm going to tip the cap to real fast here. But Anthony Slater got this attribution last night from Stephen Curry. And I thought it was interesting because he talked about keeping egos in check on a team that last night and maybe for the near future is going to be playing a 12-man rotation. Rick, that's unusual. I'd love to get your thoughts after we hear from Stephen Curry. Here's his thoughts on this team's depth and how to manage the egos.
Future, how sustainable is like a 12-man rotation in the NBA?
We're going to find out. It's the identity of this team right now. We're going to rely on our depth, ability to be versatile, depending on what the game calls for, what lineup is going well. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of a narrowing down of rotation at some point, depending on how things materialize, but that's not for us to worry about right now. It's about everybody just playing the way you know you're supposed to play hard, take advantage of your minutes out there, and like we're still learning each other in the different rotations or combinations. So it's just part of, again, our identity right now and evolve throughout the year.
How important is team brotherhood and trying to do something like that?
Our energy has been great from day one of training camp. It's a beautiful locker room, guys that are happy to be here, happy to play the way that we do. Understand everybody get an opportunity. Coach has done a pretty good job of explaining, the situation we're all in, like in a positive way of, again, how many guys he would like to play and how many guys can play. And to your point, you have to have, again, a commitment and no agendas, no egos, or healthy egos. When you're out there, like you're supposed to be out there, but if it's not your night, you can't bring the team down with your energy. So I haven't seen any red flags with that, which has been great.
And that was Stephen Curry again talking about the egos. Rick, your team that won the title, it wasn't a 12-man rotation. It was 10 if I'm not mistaken. But that's a rarity, correct? What are your thoughts on playing this many players consistent minutes?
Well, it's a luxury a coach has if his players fit into a certain category. I mean, you have your key guys who are a step above the other players. In Steph's case, a couple of steps above, a lot of steps above. And so as a coach, I know that Al Attles, God rest his soul, we lost recently. He had the luxury that if one guy wasn't going good and he started out and wasn't playing well, somebody goes in and he takes his place. And so it's just a matter of how you perform when you get in the game. Like Steph said, take advantage of your minutes, okay? Because the coach now has players that he's comfortable enough that they're of fairly equal abilities that he can sub in somebody else for that guy because the other guy's not going quite so good. And he said, don't let that impact you as far as having a negative attitude, as far as losing your energy, as far as being a cheerleader for the team. I mean, there's many games and stuff. I still remember Game 7 against Chicago in the finals of the Western Conference before we won the championship. Who's on the bench? It was Clifford Ray and myself. I mean, you have your starting center and then your leading scorer on the bench. I mean, we're there. Why? Because it's all about one thing. It's about winning.
Yes, sir.
It's all about winning. Who the hell cares who gets the job done? As long as the job gets done and you get a W on your side of the ledger, that's what it needs to be. And he mentioned the ego. I told you before many times when I've been asked to talk to teams and stuff, I said, if you're going to have a success this season, every one of you, I said, take your ego and put it in the closet because it's no longer about you.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Exactly. It's about this team. What can I do to help this team be successful and win a championship? And seems as though Steph feels, at least at this stage, that he has guys who are fitting into that particular category of not having a huge ego, of worrying about winning and not worrying about themselves. Because trust me, there's teams and there's guys sitting on benches now who are all hoping somebody gets hurt because they want to play. I mean, which is really sad. But that's reality. That's life. Not everybody is going to have it. And it's really a tribute to these guys because back when I played, there's 12. You got 15 guys, right? Or 16. I mean, you got the two-way guys. Well, you got the two-way guys as well. So, man, these guys have to have the right attitude for sure in order for it to work because it's not just 1, 2, 3 players. It takes a team to win. And the deeper you can go, the more productive you're going to be, the more dangerous you're going to be, because guys are going to come in and get the job done when somebody else is struggling that night. And so to have that kind of depth is great. And like Steve said, Steph said, Steve is going to make a determination when he's going to narrow down that rotation, like Steph was talking about, because he's going to see which guys are going to adhere to the role that is being asked of them and who's going to perform on a consistent basis. And so hopefully it'll stay this way. I can't see that they're going to wind up going 15 deep. No. Crazy. That's not going to happen. And those guys that are there are lucky. They're getting an unbelievable opportunity to make an incredible living. And they just need to be there as cheerleaders and help with practice situations. And you just never know what's going to happen. You always have to be prepared, because you don't know if there's going to be injuries or what may take place. And when your time comes, you better be ready. And if you don't take advantage of that opportunity when you get those minutes that you weren't getting before, and you don't go out and show that you're capable of playing in a way that the team needs you to play, you may have blown your opportunity. Can't hear you.
Sorry about that, sir. Thank you. And on that note, Traveling Urquita is in the audience, is a Golden Dazer. He literally pays a little extra money each month to be a part of the club. Thank you for that. He's asking about Moses Moody, which I don't think was that big of a deal, because last night
he played well.
He got an even run. He played almost 15 minutes, had 15 points.
Yeah.
I think what he's alluding to is the fact that he was the 12th man off the bench, which does that matter to you, Rick? Like, would that hurt your ego if you're the 12th guy off the bench?
Well,
and your thoughts on the extension. You got an extension as well. I don't think people have heard your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, first of all, he got an extension, which means he knows that they believe in him. But it's also a situation you have a lot of new guys. You got a game that was totally under their control. It got to a point where, it was their game, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have to worry about it. It was an opportunity for Steve to play some of these other guys that he doesn't know as well as Moody. And to Moody's credit, despite being the 12th man off the bench, he took care of the minutes that he got, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right.
There you go. What about any thoughts on Jonathan Kuminga, who started the game? There's a lot of fans that just are really focused on him. I think largely because he wants a max extension. The team didn't give it to him. So this season is a bit of an audition for him in terms of how much money he's going to get paid after this year. He's going to get his contract after this season. I don't think there's any doubt of that. I don't think the plans are to trade him. But he had a slow start, finished the game, 10 points, 4 boards, nothing to write home about. He told Sam Gordon of the SF Chronicle after the game that he's happy. He has no issues with the rotation. Any comments from you on Kuminga's situation?
Well, first of all, to be perfectly honest, he doesn't deserve a max extension. He hasn't played at that level yet.
Not yet. Yeah, not yet.
I mean, and so this is the opportunity for him this season to totally commit himself to doing what's necessary in all aspects of the game on both ends of the floor to show what he's capable of doing. As I've said a couple of years back, we've talked about it a lot. He has a chance to be a really terrific player. How good remains to be seen.
Yes.
And so I haven't seen enormous improvement in his game. I've seen improvement, but there hasn't been some giant leap to the point where he's putting himself in the upper echelon. He certainly has not put himself. And I think anybody who knows the game would say that I don't know if there's any general manager out there would give him a max contract right now, the way that he's performed. He's played well, but he hasn't done anything spectacular. And he has to show that he's got consistency to do it. He's got to be more consistent with his outside shooting, be up in the 35 or above percentile from 3-point range, be able to be pulling down, 6 rebounds or more a game, getting, at least 4 assists or more a game. If he's getting some minutes, you're not going to do that in 15, 18 minutes. But if you're getting 30 minutes or 30 minutes or more a game, you got to put up some numbers.
Okay? Well, Rick, and that's it. I think that's where I come to the defense of Kuminga a lot is, unlike other players in his position who are lottery picks, which usually they end up on bad teams. Kuminga got drafted by a team that in his rookie year won the title. So it was a very unique situation for him. But he's not getting the minutes that most players of his age and his status are getting. Like last night, he got 19 minutes. Last year, he was 7th on the team in minutes. And if he is frustrated, he's not saying so. He said he's happy, but I can understand a little frustration from him that he's not getting the opportunity that his draft classmates are getting in terms of opportunities, right? Like, what would you say? What would your reaction be to him not getting the minutes that would allow him to showcase his true skills?
That's where you have to accept to put your ego in the closet.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Because
sir.
it's not about Jonathan Kuminga.
Yep, you're right.
It's about the Golden
100%.
State Warriors. And if
You're
the team
absolutely
is
right.
going to go out and play the way that they played there, you can't be happy. I used to hate blowouts because I knew I wasn't going to get to play that much, because I love playing. So, and the bottom line is it's the same situation that I got when the Olympics were going on, when they're talking about Tatum not getting to play and all the other stuff there. I told you, I went up to Steve because I was there staying at the hotel with my son in the 3x3. And I said, Steve, I just want you to know, some idiot kind of interview called me asking about you not starting Tatum. I told him, I said, let me see. I think, didn't they win by 20 something points? What the hell difference does it make if Tatum played or not? And it's the same thing here. What difference does it make if Jonathan Kuminga only plays 19 minutes in the game if the team wins by 20 something points?
Exactly.
And here's the deal. I mean, if he's playing well and doing stuff, he's going to get the minutes. Steve's not stupid, obviously. He's one of the most successful coaches in the history of the game. He's not going to not play Kuminga if Kuminga is playing at a high level and getting the job done and doing the things that he needs to do. And the thing is in today's world, I just don't even know about trying to, get the minutes and doing the stuff and saving guys and all the other stuff that they try to do. Hey, if the team's winning, they want to save. It's kind of like an edict that's come down by the owners of the team. I got so much money, and they say, let's not wear them down. Let's not kill them and play that much. Let's try to keep them happy. Now, I personally would not be thrilled about that because I love playing. Okay. I really love playing, but I understand it. You're trying to protect your investment. And if the team's successful doing that, that's going to give you an advantage come late in the season. If these other guys get a little bit worn down, they get a little bit tired, you're going to have more energy. You're going to have an opportunity to get the job done. And like Steph said, when you get the minutes, make the most of the minutes that you get.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to learn to do. And the greatest thing I tell younger players, especially, is do it on defense. Just be a tremendous commitment to team defense. Individual, do the best you can, because I don't care how great you are. I don't care. The greatest guy in the guy will guard me. I'm going to beat him a bunch of times. Okay. His teammates got to be there to help. Okay. So you make the commitment, weak side help, doing the things necessary with a commitment to defense and put the energy forth there, because that actually will transfer over to the offensive end of the court for you as well. And that's the consistent part of the game. As a team, you can be consistent defensively, because that's just staying focused and putting the effort forth and adhering to the principles that have been put forth by the coaching staff as to how they want to play against this particular team. And it's not always the same, depending upon the personnel of the other team. And if you're willing to do that and you learn how to do that, the team is going to be relatively successful, because that will keep you in games when you're struggling offensively. And then to have the luxury of the depth where you have a lot of guys who are fairly equal in ability. Steve can in and out, put the guy in who's going, if somebody's going bad, Ben, put the other, he's not doing good, put another guy in. I mean, this is what coaching is all about. And to have that luxury, to have a lot of players who are at a level where you could feel comfortable putting them into any game, that's terrific.
It absolutely right. And on that note, I want to share this graphic. I saw this on ESPN earlier today, that Steve Kerr had 12 players in that Portland game play 14 plus minutes, right? And that doesn't count like Lindy Waters. I think who I think is deserving as well, but it's just there's so many good players. But the 12 players with 14 plus minutes against Portland was the second most for any game as a Warriors coach. The record for a Warriors head coach is also held by Steve Kerr, and this leads to the next question I want to ask you, sir, which is the similarities between this team and the team in 2014-15. That was a deep team as well. We saw players like Leandro Barbosa with significant contributions, Iguodala, Sean Livingston. That was a deep team. So is this. What are your any thoughts you have on the fact that 12 people got a serious run last night? And
it's very unusual, especially when you have a 15-man roster. Very unusual indeed, but obviously it just shows you. It goes back to 2015 when he had 13 guys that did something of that nature. So he knows now, and he's trying to figure it all out. Who am I going to be able to count on? And he was able to, because of the nature of the way the game had unfolded, to have the luxury of putting a lot of different players in to give them some minutes to get a look at them under. Forget exhibition. This was the real deal. This is a regular season game on the road. And that's a big thing because there's a lot of players out there, Cyrus, that they're two different players when it comes to playing at home and playing on the road. And so to have the luxury of being able to do that in a road game and to see that many players perform, that's going to help him in his overall evaluation. And eventually he'll get down and he'll have the ability to do it. And I think this could very well be another one of these teams where consistently later he will maybe be going 10 deep as opposed to the normal 7 or 8 that most people do.
And Kerr, before the season started, said that he was going to have a 10-man rotation. I don't think even he envisioned them going this deep. Rick, I want to go into a time machine and look back at the rosters of your 74-75 Warriors and then the 14-15 Warriors, because there is a theme here. 50 years ago, 10 years ago, and now. Strength in numbers. I have no idea where this adage came from, but I love it. I say it a lot, and it's stuck. Your team.
I wrote when I was writing for the Chronicle. I wrote a story. I wrote for both the Chronicle and the Examiner. But when I remember writing a story talking about the similarities between that team 40 years later to win the championship and us. The similarities are unbelievable. I mean, it was really quite remarkable, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And looking at your team, and I'm just going to read the entire roster because I don't know who the 10 were that actually ended up playing and who was left mostly on the bench. But so you're at the top of the list I'm seeing here, courtesy of Basketball Reference. Butch Beard, Steve Bracey. Oh, I've never heard of him.
Much. Steve is one of the guys that didn't play that much.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. I never heard of him. Bill Bridges, Derek
Bill
Dickey.
Bill Bridges was brought in as a trade. We let Frank Kendrick, who was a rookie in there, and Frank was let go to bring Bill in for his experience and especially for defense to be able to play and for him to guard Butterbean Love on the Chicago Bulls.
Butterbean Love. I just love that name. Bill Bridges, Derek Dickey, Charles Dudley, Charles Johnson, George Johnson, a lot of Johnsons there. Frank Kendrick, Jeff Mullins, your very close friend Clifford Ray, Phil Smith, and Jamal Wilkes. That team pulled off the biggest upset in sports history, beating the heavily favored Washington Bullets in a sweep. How does it feel when I read off those names, Rick? Are you going? Is your brain going back?
It's sad when you read off like Phil Smith and Derek Dickey, who died in their 40s. I mean, it's just so tragic. I mean, it was just sad that Derek had a stroke and then another one, and Phil had cancer, and it's very sad. And Charlie had cancer, and he wound up not dying. And I mean, it's tough. I mean, every time you turn around when you get to be older and get to be my age, it's kind of scary. I mean, just recently, I mean, of course, Jerry West, who was a close friend, that was a surprise. I knew he had some health issues, and little did I realize it was as bad as it was. And I talked to his son Johnny, and I guess what happened is that he had a really tough time, and then he came back home from the hospital, seemed to be doing well, and then basically it was his heart just said, the heart said that's enough. That was like my brother. It's over. The heart's not working anymore. And so it wasn't an extended period of, suffering through chemo and cancer and a lot of the other things that you could have. And so at least that was a blessing in that regard. And then Bill Walton, of course, was a shocker. He didn't tell anybody, but I guess they had stage 4 cancer. They found, they found colon cancer, and it was stage 4. And I think it was 3 months after they discovered it, he was no longer with us. And so stuff like that is tough. And then, Chet Walker, another great player, he just passed away. And then every time I turn around, it seems like somebody else is passing away. Al obviously is gone, and Joe Roberts, our great assistant coach, is no longer with us. So I'm hoping that the rest of the guys who are there are all going to be around for when hopefully we have that premiere of the championship team in 75. It'd be like 50 years later, which
the documentary you're referring to, right?
I'm talking. What's that?
You're referring to the documentary that's coming out?
Yeah, the documentary that's going to come out the 50 years. It's 50 years later, but should have been done many decades ago. But it would have been nice to have the guys around to be able to see that and just revel in the accomplishment that was that we were able to pull off. but I hope whoever's there now, I hope the rest of all of our guys are going to stay healthy enough and be alive to be there for that premiere, wherever it's going to be. I'm hoping that maybe we can get, Joe and Peter will do something. And I think the greatest thing at all would be to have it at Chase Center, and put it on the big screen and have the fans come and be a part of it. That would be pretty special.
Yes. And so that might happen, right? I mean, it's too early.
I don't know. I'm not involved in any of that stuff. I keep throwing it out there. Hopefully Joe will hear it, maybe put a seed in his head or something. But I think that would be an awesome way to do that, to celebrate that team, especially since 25 is 50 years. I mean, it's hard to believe it's 50 years ago that happened. Those things are so. I mean, it's so vivid in my mind. So many things for the course of that season, from our training camp over in Hawaii, and Clifford Ray talking to all the good-looking girls on the beach and getting his nickname Johan. It's just so many things, And I mentioned about the Game 7 against Chicago in the Western Conference Finals, and I mean, I can remember the shot I took coming off the bench after Al benched me. I mean, they're just so vivid in my mind. It's just crazy.
Well, Rick, everyone's different. Everyone ages differently. As Brandon Pajemski, the Warriors' youngest player, eloquently told me, as a man who this is a mature thing to say, age is just a number, Rick. And even though you're 80,
that's why I believe it. Yeah,
you're going strong.
It's hard for me to believe.
Anywhere. You're doing well. And just to provide people context, you're referring to a documentary that's coming out soon to celebrate.
It's going to come out next year. It's going to come out next year.
Documenting your 74-75 Warriors
championship team. I think they're going to. They're called. I'm not sure. They're looking. I know Hopper. The last time Charles Dudley was trying to put music and stuff together, but I think the name of it's going to be. I haven't got definitive answer to it. I think it's going to be the Cardiac Kids.
Ooh,
because that's what you refer to us as. Because we fell behind and then we came back, and especially in the championship series, I think 3 of those games we had double-digit deficits, and but anyway,
so you didn't make it easy on the fans, Rick.
we didn't make it easy on ourselves.
Oh, I can imagine the fans.
There was no doubt in my mind. I really did believe when we went into that series that we could beat them.
I believe that
at the start of the season, did I think we were good enough to win the championship? Hell no. I mean, I was just saying, let's prove these idiots wrong and show them and play well enough to get into the playoffs, and then we'll see what happens.
In the chat, a couple questions for you, and then I want to shift back and ask you about Buddy Hield, because I finally heard, I think, what will be the nickname that sticks for Steph and Buddy, but more importantly, Buddy Hield had a fantastic game in his first game as a Warrior.
See that one too. I was happy to see him play well, because I told you before when we talked about it, I said I think he has a chance to step in and be a nice replacement for Clay.
And so far, I know it's only one game, small sample size, but it's so very good. But Richard Marquez, I'm guessing watched you growing up, as asking, what was it like playing at the Cow Palace, and what was playing with Cazzie Russell like? I don't know who that is.
Well, Cazzie Russell was an All-American player from Michigan.
Okay.
And, was with the Warriors for a while and then went to the Lakers. And, Cazzie, probably the greatest, most accurate, flat shooting per player I've ever seen. He shot so freaking flat. I said, Cazzie, it's crazy. I said, God almighty, if you ever put the arc on a ball, it'd be nuts how good you could be, because it was almost like a freaking line drive. And when you shoot flat like that, you're shooting at a much smaller target. But he was just a hell of a shooter. I mean, unbelievable. Jazzy Cazzie. And then I coached against him in the minor leagues. We did some stuff there. And I think he became a pastor, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. Okay.
And,
all right.
And so, so Cazzie was a great scorer. He wasn't like the most gifted athletic guy. He wasn't the guy going up and dunking over people and doing all that stuff, but could he shoot the basketball. Wow.
And then give us some thoughts on the Cow Palace, which incredibly is still there.
I did a big thing. The Warriors, actually, they brought me out there. We filmed something. I don't know where it's gone or what they've done with it, but I haven't seen the final production of it, but man, they brought me back from memory, coming back and had it all lit up, and I'm walking in and I go up to the locker room. To be honest with you, back in those days, it really was a rat hole compared to the stuff that they have today. I mean, it wasn't as bad as Boston Garden or some of the other rat holes.
Really?
Boston Garden was a rat hole. They would either, rats running on the freaking pipes in the locker room, and
really.
Oh God, no! This is true. They leave the window open sometimes. It's so freaking cold, and you go in there. It's like going into a meat locker. It was so cold, And then sometimes they
God.
close and turn the heat up, and it'd be like going into a sauna bath, and you start sweating just walking into the room. And the showers were horrible. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, just absolutely horrible. And
That's home court advantage, baby. That's what I'm hearing.
that was a definite home court advantage. Plus that, and the fact that the players knew where all the dead spots were in the old Boston Garden floor.
Right.
So,
That's crazy. That is crazy.
Cal Palace was, hey, here's the Detroit builds a new building. And what did they call their place? If it was a palace, they called it the Palace at Auburn Hills.
Correct.
This was Cal Palace. And you go in there sometimes and you smell, because the circus was in there, and you'd smell all the stuff from the animals and all the, I mean, seriously, it was just, yeah, but the fans were great. It was awesome. It did bring back certainly a lot of memories, but the memories were about us winning basketball games. It certainly wasn't about the building itself and the locker rooms. It was not the best, just to be kind to it. And the fact that it's even still there, that building is so freaking old. It's amazing that it's still there.
Rick, I went there when I was, I think, 11 years old. A friend's parents took us to go see Hulk Hogan take on Mr. Perfect. That's my Cal Palace experience. And I remember at 11 years old, that place we were like looking at this place going, what the hell is this? Like, why does this even exist? It's still there. It's still there to this day.
It's good for rodeo. I mean, it's a nice rodeo thing. If you have an environment there, but it's so antiquated compared to what's being built these days. I mean, did you see the picture of the new arena that the Clippers have?
The wall is impressive.
Man, it's like going into the Twilight Zone, into some futuristic thing. I mean, maybe you might get something. Am I going to get beamed up to the suite, or what the hell? I mean, it's like
Dan Coach Emilio, a regular on Larry Kruger's show. Yeah, that's his last name. But he wants to ask you a question. He said he attended your I didn't even know this. That he attended your basketball camp in 1975 after you won the championship. And his brother Steve,
Steve Coach Emilio, I know who he is.
Yeah, so there you go. That's a comment right there.
That's the way it was funny, because I always would say Coach Emilio, Coach.
Yeah, exactly.
Coach Emilio. Yeah, at De La Salle. I remember his brother for sure. And Scooter was off there into and so that
great basketball mind. I've talked to him as well, and he knows his stuff. I didn't know Scooter went to De La Salle.
Yeah. Just he was in. As you tell you, went into the De La Salle Hall of Fame.
That's interesting. So while you were playing for the Warriors, he grew up here in the Bay Area then. Is that right?
Yeah, he and John were ball boys on that championship team.
I didn't know any of that. Okay,
just think about this. How many people have an opportunity that one of the greatest things that you got to do in your life, that your sons were a part of it, and would go and have pregame, take a pregame nap, eat the pregame meal, go to the game and be dressed up in their ball boy outfits and be a part of that. I mean, that was pretty special.
When you're taking your nap, does mom watch the kids, or because the kids are napping with you? Are they? I mean, they're
no. When they got home, they had to take a nap because they were going out. They were going to the game. They were going to be up late.
There you go.
There you go. Take a nap, pregame meal, all that good stuff. And then the way I drove to the arena, I would go through the back thing through the Caldecott Tunnel, and then I'd take the back road up over through Piedmont, and I'd go over a little hill going down where I would go down and head down to the Oakland Coliseum Arena. And there was a little bit of a hill. So if I sped up a little bit, I actually got the car a little airborne, and the guys would like So
I think I know exactly that road you're talking about. It's the one that goes by the reservoir. I forgot the name of it.
But then you come down, and it's a fairly steep hill coming down. If you just go fairly quick, you get a little, and they get pop up off their seats. So
that's a hell of a trip down memory lane, sir. I love that. And Coach Emilio, I hope he satisfied you with the answer. Going back to Buddy Hield real fast. Last night, he lit it up. And again, I feel like this system is perfect for him. A lot of people are coming out saying, Warriors fans, wait until you see the Buddy Hield that us Kings fans or us Pacers fans got to experience. And what I'm seeing the difference of in those situations to his current status with the Warriors is with the Warriors, Buddy Hield is playing in a system that suits his style. But I didn't know this until Sophia Jones, Mark's daughter. She does a weekly hit with me, and she learned this from Warriors assistant Chris DeMarco. Buddy Hield played with Chris for Team Bahamas, the Bahamas men's basketball Olympic team. And Buddy was practicing with the squad that Chris was coaching. And Chris realized, oh my God, Buddy Hield is like Steph in the sense that he loves to move off the ball. Like he, just like you said, right? The more pressure you put on the defense, the more you confuse them, the more you make them work, the easier your offense is going to be. And Buddy Hield likes to play in a system like this where he's running, he's getting the defender tired, and then he catches and shoots. And last night he scored 22 points. He was 5 of 7 from deep. I'm hearing the nickname Splash Buddies as the duo of Steph and Buddy Hield. I love it. Your thoughts are on Buddy Hield?
Yeah, I mean, I told you before when I heard that they got him, I thought that if he plays up to the capabilities that he has, that he would be a nice replacement for Clay. And, you know, Clay's the same way. Clay moved, understood how to move without the ball. I mean, come on, guy called 37 freaking points in the quarter or whatever it is with 3 dribbles or some stupid thing. So this is perfect. It's the same thing for Buddy, not as much as Kevin Durant, who's at such a freaking high level. But I said Kevin Durant is going to become a better player playing for the Golden State Warriors because of the way that they play. And he will get more easy shots than he's ever had before in his life. And the same thing with Buddy. If the Warriors play Warriors brand basketball, he's going to get all kinds of great open looks, and he's going to have a lot of games like he had last night.
Beautiful. And Rick, how are you feeling about this team? Let's end it on that note, unless you have anything else to add.
One game does not a season make, obviously. But it certainly was a great start, an opportunity to see what the potential of it is. And we'll keep a close eye on it and see how these other players perform and whether they're going to maintain consistency in their performance. But again, I'm sure that Steve has talked to him and the coaching staff, the commitment to defense. Mm-hmm. It's got to start with a commitment to defense. There's very few NBA teams ever have won a championship who weren't a decent defensive team. The majority of them were in the top 10. There are, I think I look back to look, I think there might have been a couple that were out of the top 10, but you didn't find anybody who was in the 20s, that was winning any championship. And so that's the commitment that they need to make. And then, Steve will, I'm sure, do what he did in the game. The other one, if things are going good, he's going to take a look, especially early season. He's going to give guys that chance, get them in there, save my other guys. I know what Steph could do. I know what Draymond could do. Obviously, I know what Wiggs is capable of doing, and he's going to give these other guys a chance. And so, if they want to take heed of what was said by their leader, Steph Curry, listen to what he said.
Yeah.
Make the most of the minutes that you get and show what you're capable of doing. That will enable you to be a person that Steve can count on and rely on, and you're going to get your chances because everybody doesn't play at the highest level all the time.
Perfectly said. And I feel like Kuminga just had he seemed anxious and was forcing things early in the game.
Well, he's got to watch that for the rest of the season. See?
Yeah, exactly.
And he wants a big contract. Well, you know what? Don't think about the big contract. Okay.
Exactly.
Go out there and bust your hump and play hard. The one thing that I know that I can honestly say that there was never one game ever that I played in basketball that I ever had a preconceived thought in my mind about trying to go out and score a certain number of points ever.
Yeah, and I love that you said that. I feel like you, Kobe, Jordan, you all have the same mentality, man, which is
go out and you play aggressively.
Yes.
I played an aggressive brand of basketball. When I got the ball, I was looking for ways to score, which doesn't mean that just for myself. If my teammate's open, he's getting the basketball, but I'm going to try to put a lot of responsibility on the defender to have to prevent me from doing what I'm doing. And I'm going to try to create all kinds of opportunities for myself or for my teammates. And that's why you have to learn how to do that.
Yeah, and Hansolo Dolo, thanks again for jumping on the show last night with me. That was an awesome post-game show saying there's a lot of two-way players on this team, and I wholeheartedly agree. I want to real quickly, I'm sorry, Rick. I know I'm stealing your time here, and I always feel a little guilty about that, but thank you so much for that, for giving your time to me and the audience.
With all the money you're paying me, you can take my time.
Checks in the mail, sir. Checks in the mail. But I wanted this graphic we showed earlier. I forgot to mention who was on the 14-15 Warriors, just to remind folks how deep that team was. Again, Leandro Barbosa came off the bench. Harrison Barnes was your starting small forward. Andrew Bogut was your starting center. You had Steph, obviously, as your starting point guard. Festus Ezeli was your backup center. He was starting at that position a couple years before that, and then he was relegated to the bench, which is okay. Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala, David Lee, who played some pivotal minutes on that team.
The biggest thing here is they had two top line players, even Iggy with all-star time, who were willing to come off the bench.
Yeah. Yes.
To give other people the opportunity to get the minutes and get the experience and get the confidence that you need to have when you play the game. And this is what it's going to take here. That's why I kept saying last year, if you remember, Clay needs to take that position and come off the bench, be the guy to come in and do the shooting and do the stuff. That's an important element when you have a veteran player. Well, I went down and did that with the Rockets for 2 seasons. And, unfortunately, because that was one of the best teams I ever played on, most talented teams down there, and should have done way better than we did. But, I didn't have any, I just wanted to win. I wanted to win. It still pisses me off, though, to think about the fact that they just came down to just $10,000, Cyrus. I left over $10,000. I couldn't believe that that Scotty Sterling didn't give me $10,000.
Well, and just to provide context, Rick, because I'm guessing a lot of people aren't following what you're saying, $10,000 was the difference between you finishing your career with the Warriors and leaving to the Rockets. And from your perspective, it was principle, right? It was a matter of fairness.
Well, just like Clay was upset about the way that the team related to him. He didn't think that they gave him the recognition that he deserves. That's what I was reading about. I don't know the story, but I do know in mind, it just came down to principle. Listen, I'm willing to hear. I'm here. I'm did it. Whatever. And it was said. I can't. They said to me, Scotty says, the general manager, I can't believe, Rick, that you're going to blow this deal over $10,000. I said, hell, Scotty, you got it backwards. I can't freaking believe you're willing to let me go over $10,000.
Exactly. If an employer is not willing to negotiate and be fair, bounce, right? Especially
$10,000. Are you freaking kidding me?
That's ridiculous. Random question. Richard, or just to finish up, by the way, the 2014-15 Warriors, because I wasn't done. There was even more players. Sean Livingston.
Yeah.
Brandon Rush actually had an important role in that team. Maurice Spates, Klay Thompson. That was a stacked team, Rick. And here we are again with another stacked deep team. It's absolutely incredible. Richard Marquez has one more question for you. If you don't mind answering, I'll indulge him if you don't mind doing the same, which is, any regrets playing for the Oakland Oaks, the ABA team that you left the Warriors to play for?
No, I don't have regrets about things. Life is a series of adventures and experiences, and you just accept them. If it makes you sad, cry, get over it, move on. Life, that's it. It happened. My thing is, if I hadn't done what I did, I wouldn't be where I am today, having the incredible wife that I have, my amazing son, another son that I wouldn't have had. The space-time, I love, Star Trek stuff. The space-time continuum would have been altered. And so I say, but I will say this, the ABA experience and everything, it was crazy, the stuff that went on there. If I could do it over again and know that I could have the wife that I have, the son that I have, the amazing friends that I have right now, and know that I could still have that and I could do it over, I wouldn't have left.
There we go. Everything happens for a reason, right, Rick?
I do. I have a thing right here. I'm pointing to it right off to the side here on my thing. It said, my son Scooter gave it to me. Everything happens for a reason. And it really does, folks. I mean, just trust that. Sometimes you'll find out immediately. Sometimes it might be a day later, a week later, a month later, a year later. But you will eventually understand and realize why things did happen to you. And there are things that you need to learn from those experiences to help make you a better person.
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right there. The Warriors, next time you see us on this program, or at least me, Rick, it's an open door policy for you. Anytime you want to come on the show, the door's open. The Warriors next play the Utah Jazz. We'll be back tomorrow night for post game.
You see the game Markkanen had?
Say again, I'm sorry?
You see the game Markkanen had last night?
He had a big, they lost, but he had a big night.
No, they lost in a tight, close game. Yes. But can you imagine? I'm sorry to say, but I mean, can you imagine if he was on this team?
Well, Rick, this is going to be a good test for the Warriors because Utah doesn't just have Lauri Markkanen as their small forward. They also have Taylor Hendricks, Walker Kessler, John Collins. This will be a good test, I think, for the Warriors because even though the Utah Jazz aren't expected to do much this year, they've got a big front line. And there's some talent there.
Big thing. This is the supposed Achilles heel of the Warriors, the size.
So we'll find out. We'll find out, right?
Exactly right. We'll get a little glimpse at that in the next game.
Anything you want to promote before we go, sir? I know you got some
companies. But this is always the time. Put it up there for the people from MediciLeaf.com, MediciLeaf.com, GoSleeves.com. Go Sleeves, unbelievable. They're coming up with some even new great products, which I wear all the time. And then also allomd.com.
Real quick with Go Sleeves, again, this is a product that you wear as a current reigning pickleball champion. And unfortunately, the Warriors didn't accept your gift, which pisses me off.
We got a lot of football players now. Some of the 49ers and other people are wearing it. Runners are going nuts over it. GoSleeves.com. RB24 is the code for that. And also for medicaleaf.com and for allomd.com with the Ultimate Repair Action. You can use that code for any product on those sites. Just an amazing product. And I wear it for pickleball. I never play my pickleball without wearing my Go Sleeves. I do it because I have no cartilage in my left knee, but it feels great. And so I wear it on my right as well. And just so you know, I got 2 of my goals I've reached so far. My goal is to try to win the Triple Crown and make the 4 major tournaments, the U.S. Open, the World Senior Games, which just took place, and then I've got the USA Pickleball Nationals coming up next month, and then the U.S. Senior Championships in December. So I've won 2 Triple Crowns so far, U.S. Open and the World Senior Games, and so I'm kind of excited about that, and I'm going to try to see if we can pull it off in the next games as well. But I have to compete. I love to compete. You have to have a challenge in life, and you have to set goals for yourself. So right now, things are going along very nicely. So I'm 2 for 2. Hopefully I can get a full like Moses.
And I want to thank Richard Marquez for officially becoming a Golden Dazer. Thank you, sir. Bruce Morrow, I love this idea that you should mentor Jonathan Kuminga.
Here's the thing. I already offered my stuff and said to guys, and they never take me up on it. I could show Kuminga some things because I could have showed LeBron some things, and he never took me up on it either. I mean, these guys are not doing things that they could learn to do that would make them much better players and take their game to a whole new level.
Well, Rick, I have an inside channel with Kuminga. I will relay your message directly to him, and we'll see what he says. But if you're genuine, I will get the message to him. And if he decides not to at that point, that's on him.
It's a little tough to do that when they've already gotten into the season and they're
right. Well, that's true too. That's true too.
So it's a little hard to be doing it then. But I just don't understand why. If someone who had great success doing something and you're involved in the same profession as that person, and that person offers you the opportunity to possibly pick their brain and maybe you can learn something to help make you a little bit better, how in the world do you not take advantage of that opportunity? It just makes no sense to me at all.
You're absolutely right. And again, maybe my guess is, I know that Shaq did get the message and he just didn't want to shoot the free throws and accept your mentorship. But who knows with the Warriors how many of these messages are getting through. So let's see what happens. If Kuminga doesn't want your mentorship, that would shock me. We'll see what happens. But Rick, I love you, sir. I can't thank you enough for taking the time. Always a pleasure. Anything else before we go? I know people can follow you on social media at Rick24Berry on all platforms. Instagram is my favorite platform of yours to follow, but I follow all of them. Anything else you want to promote before we go?
No, I'm just working on a whole bunch of fun stuff going, and I mean, my life has been so incredible. I'm so fortunate and just have a lot of fun things going on right now. And I'm waiting to see how they all pan out. And when I have things that are, that I can report on to do something, I will let you know. When people go try this new thing, if you're into pickleball, go to picklezone.com. Picklezone, that's another thing I'm involved with in pickleball. That's pretty
cool. Picklezone? What is that?
Just check it out. At Picklezone, you can play pickleball. You can get tokens that you can get, which will help you to get discounted. Anyway, just go to the site, picklezone.com, check it out. And if you're into pickleball, fastest growing sport in the world right now, it's pretty amazing. And I got a lot of other things going on with pickleball as well. So yeah, life is good. And
Bravo. Bravo.
And God bless everybody with the upcoming holidays. Have a good Halloween but I'm sure I'll be on talking to you sometime before.
I hope so. You better.
Thanksgiving, maybe before Thanksgiving and Christmas. We'll see what's happening.
I owe a lot of my success to you, sir. Most of it. So I thank you. Thank you for everything as always. And there's Pickle Zone right there. I think it's set up for your mobile app. If you play pickleball, take it from its champion at pickleball, Rick Barry, among many things, obviously an NBA champion, one of the greatest players ever, top 15 in mine and Bruce Jenkins' opinion. He just wrote that in the Chronicle.
Go Warriors.
Go Warriors. And thank you, everyone. As always, Rick, thank you, sir. Bye-bye.